722.3 transmissions and weird failures. If you're not familiar with the Mercedes 722.3 and .4, it's the ubiquitous transmission that was used from 1980 when it debuted in the Euro 126, all the way up to the mid-90s when it went out of production in the 1995 E320, E300 diesel, and similar cars. This transmission, which was in almost every Mercedes passenger car for 15 years, and some of them longer. I mean, I think it was in the Galinda wagons longer, is a really great transmission. And what I'm going to try to do today is give you a guide to fixing simple, stupid failures on this transmission that can make your life with it a little easier. First problem, transmission downshifts randomly after hours of driving, or 1 hour of driving, or maybe 30 minutes, but it has to be good and hot. 9 times out of 10, the problem with this is usually a blocked transmission filter. It means that the transmission filter is collapsing as it picks up debris or shavings from the graphite clutches in the transmission. This doesn't mean the clutches are wearing out. Clutches do wear, but it doesn't mean that they're totally worn out. But as this material gets into the filter, it causes the transmission not to be able to upshift or even stay in gear, because the modulating pressure drops and the transmission's working pressure drops from it not being able to pull enough fluid through the filter. Even if you put a filter in the car 500 miles ago, if the transmission was really dirty inside and hadn't been serviced in a long time, do it again. I had one car where the car drove for 100 miles before the filter failed again because there was so much crap. I had another car that I drove for 1,200 miles and I had to put another filter in it. After that, it was fine. So it shouldn't keep you from servicing the transmission, and it definitely should not keep you, you definitely shouldn't be afraid of pulling the filter and changing it. I've had one car before that needed 3 filters before it cleared itself up. So again, don't be scared. Transmission will not shift out of second gear. Now this is a real simple one. If you look behind the gas pedal, there's a kick down switch. And if everything is working right and you don't see any visible problems with the transmission, like a stuck Bowden cable or low and dirty fluid, check the mat under the driver's on the driver's horn. Make sure it's not pushing down to the kick down pedal, or make sure, this is even more common, that the kick down switch isn't defective and sticking. A great way to tell is to unplug the switch. I recently had this problem at a low mileage 500 SEL, and after disconnecting the switch, guess what? Everything was better. This was a big deal because it could have meant the difference between a transmission and just a simple little $20 switch. Doesn't even take 3 minutes to install. Thinking it's something even simpler, well, there's one more thing that can do this. If your Bowden cable jams in the extended position, you can also get the symptom. It's on top of the valve cover in a 123 diesel, which is usually where this happens, but all the 722.3s have it, and you should know where the Bowden cable or kickdown cable is routed to make sure it's not set up wrong. Here's another problem: faint or weak transmission shifting. A lot of the time this can be caused by a vacuum modulator that is adjusted in too far. If your transmission flares in every single gear where it goes "rrrr, rrrr," and then clunk goes into the next gear, before you say the transmission is bad, make sure your vacuum modulator is not adjusted in too far. A great way to test the modulator is to disconnect the line going to it and see if the shifting gets harder and firmer. If this is the case, then it means that your modulator cap needs to be removed and the little adjuster in the modulator needs to be screwed inward to improve the car's shifting and make it a little bit firmer. I've got one more for you guys if you stuck around. And this one is one of those failures where I really get extremely frustrated because I think a lot of transmission shops don't realize how simple the problem is to resolve. So we've had transitions before that have had erratic shifting, and sometimes they'll flare, sometimes they won't go into fourth gear, sometimes they shift really weird. You know, it's all over the place, really. Now, occasionally this can be because the clutches in the transmission are just worn out, but I've had this problem before with transmission valve bodies where so much debris gets built up inside them from lack of services that they fail to do their job and allow the transmission to shift. Fixing one is really simple. First of all, if you remove the valve body with its 12 or so screws in the pan, don't separate the top and the bottom. Just remove the side cover plates one by one, pull the little valves out and clean the bores with a brake parts cleaner. You will probably see some nasty stuff come out. 9 times out of 10, this will lead to an improvement in shifting, and sometimes you might even find a broken spring. The reason that it is so important that you don't rule out the valve body is because the valve body is really where the shifting begins. And this is a job that if you're a DIY mechanic, you could pull the pan down, pull the valve body, and do it yourself. And if there are enough requests for this, I might even have a video where I explain the different parts of the Mercedes valve body and what they do on the 722.3 and .4. There is some material I need to learn, but it would be good for all of us. All right, if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please subscribe to this channel and leave us a like. And if you really enjoyed it, share it with someone else you know who has a classic Mercedes. Tap the bell for notifications so you can get more great content from our channel, and enjoy working on your Mercedes Benz.